You should have said something. I have a ring.
Well, I have one here, but let's see, this is a 1/4 inch, I made 3/8.
That's what mine was, 3/8. What you do, just drill a hole in it.
A relatively small end on. And the federal guidelines on a rattle, or any toy that a kid would pick up that could put in their mouth, it needs to be 1 7/8 inches in diameter. So this end has to be that large, which really makes the tool look kind of clunky, or the rattle look kind of clunky. But I'm going to try a different design tonight. I'm going to make this end a little shorter and make these just a little thinner so that the rattle has a little lighter appearance to it than what this one does. One of the things I've done, and Paul has at least one of these somewhere, is I generally make a template for doing this. And so I mark on it where the 1 7/8 is. I mark where my large beads are, my small bead, and then I mark where I want to take out any of the material between the rings. And so that's pretty handy, because you then have a template you can lay up against the piece of wood, you can mark it, and you've got everything where you need to have it. I started to turn this down, and I'll go ahead and finish turning it to get it round, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're turning walnut tonight, and walnut cuts pretty nicely, and so I was going to use a piece of cherry, but I saw it had a small crack in it. See how I placed the template against there? And just go ahead and mark my mark. And then to keep from getting confused, go ahead and darken them in. And now we have a basic rattle mark. And so what I'll do with these is I'll cut them with a parting tool. And then I'm going to show you how to take and make sure that when you clean up the ends of this after you part it down, how to take away the torn grain. If you look at this one, this one's not too bad. Oftentimes when you use a parting tool, you're going to end up with torn grain on this face, because you're cutting down through that end of that grain and it pulls it out. And so you can clean that up with a skew, and I'll show you how to do that in a second here. Now remember, those of you who took the early summer classes, when you're cutting with a parting tool, you come down and you get it so it just starts to cut the circumference, and then cut it in. Comes down, it just starts to cut, and plunge. Lift your handle and cut away on that tangent to the circle. I got that one a little wide, so we'll come in here and cut this just a little bit more here. Make this a little wider because then we got it in the wrong place. Then we're going to cut this one. And cut this one here. All right. So if I want to clean up this edge on this bead, I need to take this out of my way, and we'll just peel that out of there with skew. We got it out of the way. Well, what I want to do is I want to cut this face because I want to eliminate any torn grain in this particular face. Now to do that, I'm going to use the toe of the skew. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut that away. Now the important part of doing this is to make sure that this face of the skew is lined up with the direction of the cut. Does that make sense to you? Nod your head. Somebody nod your head. Linda, nod your head. It doesn't make sense. All right, you're going to be able to see this. I'm going to lay the skew on. This face is parallel to this face. And so I've got the skew shoved off to my right. I'm going to come in, I'm going to start to cut that. And I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to ride that face against that, what I was clearing. And you probably won't be able to see it, but this face is real smooth now. I don't have any torn grain in that face, which is what I want to eliminate or take care of. I'll do the same thing on this one. Do the same thing on this one. If I can get it started. Come in and cut this one. I'll cut this one. I've got some material here I want to get rid of. I'll take a 1/2-inch spindle gouge and take this out of my way. Take this out. This is where the handle's going to be. Notice how I'm riding the bevel, and I'm working in the direction of my cut. Oftentimes, you know, when we're teaching the classes and things, people are scraping with the spindle gouge, and you can see how clean I got this grain cut. You know, it's nice and smooth. It's almost as if I'd used a skew. So let's go ahead and talk about how we would cut the beads. One of the things that I'll maybe do, I've got a little chip out here. Let's just smooth these up a little bit. Okay. Now I purchased a ring tool, and you can see how that's set up. If I hold it up against that black of this, you can see how it's yeah, but I can see it here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got it against, you can see it right against the black there. It's got a V in it, or a hole in it. It's got 2 cutting edges. And this actually functions as a scraper. If you drop it so that it's below the center of the tool. And I'll show you how it's cut as a scraper. And when you're bringing it in, you have to drop it just a little bit. And we've got a fairly cleanly cut bead. The other way to do it is to get some of that material out of your way before you use the beading tool. And go ahead and cut the bead on the surface of these. And one of the things you may not know at home is it's relatively dark in this corner. So I used a spindle gouge, and this is a detail gouge to cut that. of the other tools you can use to do that is a skew. Now, some of you may have watched Alan Batty use a skew. Have any of you gone online and watched him do a skew cutting? Alan Batty died last year, and Alan was an English turner. Probably actually a bodger, and probably turned it originally out in the woods. And I've always tried to turn a bead by using the heel of the skew, like that. And Alan, in his video, says to use the toe of the skew, which I think is actually easier. And what he does with the toe is he drops it in this way. So you got the toe coming in. You come in and you cut it. And you can go ahead and cut around that. Fairly easily. Use a little scraper there. That make sense to you? Any questions at this point? Dan, did I see your hand go up? No? Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
That first tool that you used to create the bead, did you
Yeah.
fashion that yourself?
No, I bought this one.
Okay.
But this is one I did make. Basically the same thing out of a piece of
Okay.
flat steel.
Wow, nice.
So this is a 3/8 hole. And then when you do it, you have to release this this top corner on it. And I had to release this back here a little bit. And then I went ahead, watered it or heated it and hardened it and then annealed it so that I could sharpen it and get a sharp edge on it.
And what did you call that, Jim?
It's a hook, a ring tool.
Ring. Okay, thank you.
And so we could use this ring tool here even just to get that bead on the top of that. Okay, you see how that worked? When you're bringing it in, you have to bring it in so that it's not coming in this way, otherwise this point will hit. This point here. So you have to turn the tool so it's coming straight in so that the notch is coming straight into the top of the bead. So I just drop it down like a scraper. And I've got a fairly nice bead on there. Now one of the things we need to be is 1 7/8 inches, and so I've still got some room to play. So we're just demonstrating a couple of different things here. So let's go ahead and bring that down to just over 1 7/8 inches. So we go ahead and put the bead on there. This one we can bring down a lot more, and we will. Bring this down. Because this is the one that people always wonder how you got it over that one or how you get it over the end. We'll go ahead and cut these deeper now. roll these beads on here. Go ahead and roll this one on too. Now, when you're making these, it's an exercise in codes and beads. So you can put a series of beads where the handle is, you can put a series of codes. You need something up here that's a little bit lumpy to give it a little bit of noise when you rattle it. And since we're making this a shorter handle tonight, let's just put a single bead in here. A little smaller? Yeah. I've got an audience here. Jim's helping. Just smooth it up a little bit. Okay. Let's bring these down a little bit more. Maybe we'll make them 2 different sizes. Roll the bead on the top of it. Okay. So we'll sand that. We'll go ahead and cut these. And then we'll get them loose. And I'll show you what we're going to do with them once we got them loose. I don't see it there. Is there a roll of masking tape in that tray over there?
Yeah.
The tray. Yeah.
Jim,
Okay. Yeah. I'm hearing somebody say Jim.
does that ring tool make the bottom of the rings round too?
Yeah, we're going to do that here in just a second. And I'll show you how to do that. I need to make this a little deeper here. I always try to make 4 beads. And invariably you'll lose one of them somewhere in the process. And so that way you at least got 3 to make noise. So to do this, again, you're coming in with your ring tool. You're coming in so you're opening it straight into the top of the bead. Clear it, and then you start to swing the ring tool. Roll it over and come straight into the bead and roll the ring tool. Or bring it around. Now, I don't want to cut that free yet, and I'll show you how to cut it free in a minute. But let's go ahead and do the rest of the bead. When you come off, you pull it back. You don't pull it straight out, but you have to pull it back so that you've got clearance. And straight in, and cut it around. I'm just sanding the top of those beads. Okay, so we've got the two big beads turned, this turned, and we've got these ready to break loose. I'm going to sand this one just a little bit more. It's got a little bit of a rim on it. I'm going to clean this up here on this face a little bit. Okay. Now you can go ahead and break that loose with a ring tool. But one of the things that sometimes happens is when you're doing that, you'll get this little point here. See that lower point? Sometimes you'll get that just when you're coming around and you get to where it's going to break loose and it's going to scar the top of that. And so what I've done is, Mike chastised me for screwing up a good screwdriver, but I took that and took a screwdriver and ground it and bent the point of it so that I can come in and clear out the bottom of those rings. So we'll just come in and cut that, and it's free. 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 And free. So now we got 4 rings. Thanks, Ken. Now the trick is that now you've got those rings floating around and they become aggravating. But first I have to do, before I put them out of my way, is I have to get this so that this is completely open and so they'll be free to float. I'll just come in there and cut this out of my way. Okay, so now we've got all 4 rings free. We have to decide what we want to do in here. So let's turn a series of 3 beads. As soon as I find my pencil. Quarters. Okay, so they're 3/4 inch beads. Because that's 2 1/4 inches in there. So we'll take this skew and go ahead and mark where we want our bead cuts to start our beads. Fun, aren't they? All right. We'll just take those beads out of our way, hopefully. So I can show you, we'll turn the beads inside there. You know, Larry would say I'm too cheap to buy a good roll of tape, and he's probably right. Huh? I didn't have any rubber bands. I had some tape.
I have about a 10-year-old roll of blue painter's tape, Jim. That's what I use.
Yeah, you gotta loan me some of it. You know, if you weren't so cheap, you'd give me some.
You never asked before.
I'm just gonna go ahead and turn a long bead there. Let's start a long bead. Let's take this and run this skew in against that face again and cut ourselves some space. Turn this end to this one. Oh, we got tape in there. We're just gonna let the beads rattle. That'll make it more fun, won't it? Okay. Got a little cleaning up to do in there. A little cleaning up here. How are we doing on time? How long does this take? Almost 8. All right, so one of the things, if you're doing this out of maple or cherry, it's always kind of fun to burn it a little bit. Even on walnut, it'll show up some. Maybe you want to take that, and maybe take the top of some of the beads and burn them as well. And we'll put one here too. All right, so we got to cut it free.
Jim, before you take it off,
Yeah, I got a question too, Jim.
Sure.
I've seen videos and I've made these before too. And I sometimes attach sandpaper to the shaft underneath the rings. And
Yeah.
then I can sand those underneath.
Yeah, and
Well, still
I'm not too worried about it. You know, these are cut fairly clean, Ken. You know, you can see that there's no lumps or anything in them. You know, sometimes when you cut them, there'll be little pieces that are almost cut through, and if you just push them over, they break off. And so I used to try to sand them, and I gave up on that as just too much work.
Well, I did mine with the skews, so it was a little bit easier just to sand it.
Yeah,
Wait, Janet, I have a question.
okay.
Janet?
yeah, that was my, I had the same question about cleaning up the bottom of the rings, but it looks like they are so clean.
Yeah, they're pretty clean. This one's got a
How-
little piece on it.
How, it's surprising it's so clean without being sanded or something.
Say again?
Yeah, it's just surprising that they came out so clean, almost like on a first pass.
I'm lucky.
Yeah, talented.
So that, wherever that is, there it is. And then I've got another one here that I've been a little bit more of a hook on. And this one you can actually go around the corner and clean it out even cleaner. So you can just come in and cut it around. Okay, so we're going to clean this edge up again. Just start to bead that in. I didn't get them real clean. But you get the general idea. So what I usually finish them with is mineral oil. And it always amazes me how the mineral oil changes the tone on them. Okay. You want to get a paper towel, Mike, or somebody?
Is walnut an okay wood for kids to chew on?
Oh yeah, they even eat the nuts.
I think it's important
there's no
that you
problem
tell the
with walnut.
parents. I think
Walnut
it's
is-
important you
is
tell the
not
parents.
poisonous or anything.
Jim, I think it's important you tell the parents what kind of finishes are on there and what kind of wood it is.
Say again?
I think it's important to tell the parents what kind of wood it is and what kind of
Oh
finish.
yeah, I always tell them, but I've never had any adverse effects of anything. You know, I wouldn't turn one out of any exotic or anything like that. You know, but walnut always finishes up pretty nice.
Some people are allergic to the dust. I've never heard anybody being allergic to the wood.
Yeah. And I find that, you know, they can't really get it in their mouth that easily. Because you got this great big end on it. Okay. So, that's that. Any questions on that? That was pretty quick. Now, Reg asked if I would show how to use a hook tool again.
May I show a different rattle?
Huh?
May I show a different rattle?
Sure.
I know how well you guys can see it. Because it's
Turn
on a
cup
small.
and then put beads in it or beans
Yeah,
in it.
so
How did you turn the handle into it or did you turn the cap piece? Pull it back some, Joanne. Joanne, pull it back. Pull it back, away from the camera. You're too close to the camera, we can't see it. There you go. So again, you know, your end is probably not big enough. We just lost you. You went silent.
Joanne, you're on mute.
You muted. There you go.
okay, here we go.
There.
So here we are, back further. 2 pieces of wood, you route out, you put beans in, you glue them together, and then you turn it from there. And yes, now I realize that the sizes are wrong. So, but it's still, it makes noise and it's fun. And you could put a bigger bead at the end.
That's nice.
You know what I'm saying? To do that. Okay?
That's cool. I wonder if you could do both processes.
Do what?
Put a ring on it.
Yeah, do a
That would be
couple
neat.
rings.
That
You know,
would
on
be
the
really
part
neat.
where
Down
it's
on the
not
handle,
hollowed
maybe.
out. Do you know what I
It
mean,
would
Jim?
get kind of thin at the top, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Get
but
down in
maybe,
there.
yeah, sort of combine them.
What did you put inside, Joanne?
Beans.
Oh, beans. Thank you.
Jim, would you hold yours up again? I wanted to just snap a picture of it.
I don't know how to do this. There you go.
Good enough. If you, almost, a little lower. Thank you.
It's a fun thing to turn. I want this one here. This is a little soft. It's a fun thing to make. You know, and you turn enough of them, you do them in about 20 minutes. Mike, what's his name? Walton, over in Europe. He talks about turning one, and he has a ring tool when he turns his. But he said he didn't like the 1/4-inch ring tool like I showed you, and he preferred to have a 3/8 tool so he had more space around the ring. And I found that 1/4-inch tool works pretty well. All right, so this is for Reg. Reg wanted to see how to use a ring or a hook tool again. And one of the things that I've found with the hook tool is it's often nice to bore a hole first. There's a 1/4-inch spindle gouge over there. Or not a spindle gouge. Oh. Okay. I'm going to true this up a little better. Okay, so let's bore it once, or see if we can bore it, just to get ourselves a little hole. I'm going to use a spindle gouge to do that. Okay, so I've got 2 different homemade hook tools here. This is I think it's 5/8 with a 1/4-inch shaft, and this is 3/8 with just a straight shaft. Okay, you can't see that? Okay, so the heavy shaft you can see at the bottom and the lighter shaft at the top. Okay. So this one with the heavier shaft, you have to back the tool rest up. My super glue is going to work. that bit is held in with super glue and the glues come loose. Let's see if this looks tough. So in order to reduce some of the rattling, we'll come in a little closer. Now remember, the hook tool was used for cutting end grains. And you see where I'm cutting? I'm cutting down right at the corner of the tool. So I'm coming in, I'm hooking it. You see how that's done, Reg?
Yep.
Okay, so we're getting a little bouncing there. Here we go. Let's see how, we can see we got, inside here, we've got some cut stuff. And so I'm going to take a 1/4 inch bowl gouge. I'm going to come in and I'm going to see if I can clean up that face. See if we can bore that with a bowl gouge.
Just remember, you don't want to hit the monitor when it comes off.
You know why they don't send donkeys to school, don't you?
It's big, that's big. I'll hit the windows.
You can see a lot of hair in the bottom. It's a little more difficult to get it to start. Now this is a piece of relatively dry Norway maple. See how you have to drop it down, come in and hook that bottom, and then you can get it to start to pop. And we're getting enough vibration that's causing the tool rest to come loose. You're a smart guy, Mike. No, I was just going over the little tip in the bottom.
Now, would you say that's faster than a gouge?
Huh?
Would you say that's faster than a bowl gouge?
Oh yeah, it's faster than a bowl gouge or an end grain. If I was doing side grain, it would work pretty, it'd cut a lot faster. And I can cut this thinner in here. But let's show you what you want to see, Reg.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so Reg also wanted to know how you sharpen one of them.
Now, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to move this a little bit. You want to shift
So
it?
here, we'll just put it right here. Will that work?
Oh, I see.
Okay. So normally what I do is I mount this in a vise. And this is one of those diamond impregnated steel wheels. Okay, you can find these, they're chainsaw sharpening bits and they're diamond impregnated. And on eBay, you can usually find them, maybe you can buy 6 for 15 bucks. And they come in the standard chainsaw sizes, okay? And so this is the biggest one, which is what? 7/32, I think. And I just use them to cut the inside of the crook. And then if I want to, I'll also come out on the back side of it. And then I look at the edge, and when you're sharpening a tool, if you can see the edge, then it's not sharp. Can you hold that up there so they can see it, maybe?
There you go.
And if we look into the edge of it, let's see, can you see? This is not the easiest thing I ever did. Okay. And they're not that hard to sharpen. It's a matter, sometimes they're sharpened on the inside edge and sometimes they're sharpened on the outside edge. And I haven't found that it makes a whole lot of difference. But if you feel it, you can feel that it's pretty sharp right here in the corner. It's much sharper in the front of the flat. So I need a little work in there. Okay. And as I talked about before, when I did a demonstration of hollowing tools and end grain tools, I said that I designed this handle so I could put a hand down here and I could pull it more easily. And so that's why I put this bulge down here. And I've got a bulge up here, and so this gives me an ability to pull it. So, pretty simple, and I really like doing the end grain bowls, particularly when you're turning green wood. And this was fairly dry. It's a little bit of moisture in it, but it's not bad. You could turn a red oak bowl that big around and do an end grain turning or hollowing in it, and take it down to maybe, quarter inch, maybe an eighth of an inch, and it won't crack because of the way the grain's set up, and it won't change shape. They'll stay round. You know, they might change in a 6-inch bowl, you might get a 16th or maybe an eighth of an inch change in diameter. And it's amazing how well they hold up.
That's because you're going into the end grain.
It's because you're going into the end grain. And so you don't have the edges wanting to turn because you're coming straight down into the end grain and it'll stay flatter. No, I just take the bottom down to about the same thickness, maybe a little heavier. The trick is if you leave the pith in it, it's going to crack. But if you take the pith out, you know, just set the bowl so it's a little bit off pith, it doesn't crack at the bottom. But if the pith's there, it'll often crack at the pith. Okay. Anything else? Any questions?
So I get the chatter that you got from that almost any time with any tool inside the bowl.
Oh, do you?
It drives me nuts. What strategy do you have to get rid of that?
What tool are you using inside?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so if you're using an Ellsworth, for instance, okay, an Ellsworth is a parabolic curve, and you'll see that it's wide down in here. So if you're looking at this tool, if I can find where it is, okay, if you look at this tool, you can see how the cutting edge is inside the width of the tool. And so when you're coming around inside a bowl, if you try to keep that thing straight up and down, this edge is going to be below the cutting edge. So you've got a cutting edge, and then you've got an arc of the wood, and then you've got this edge beating on it. And so that's going to start to cause the tool to vibrate. And if you just turn the tool a little bit so that this cutting edge is down and more in line with this edge, you don't get near as much vibration. So as you're coming into a tool, you're starting here, and then you're turning it up, and now it's leading with this edge. And it's only got this short distance then for that to get through that arc. And so you're coming in and you're working through that arc, and you don't get near as much beating. If you start to get beating like this, then you need to turn the tool just a little bit and run with this edge, this upper edge of this cut, so that you're working off of this point right there. Okay? And you don't get nearly as much vibration in the tool. You know, where you often get vibration is you're coming across the bottom of a bowl, and you can't get this point, you can't get this past it. And so then you need to go to a steeper grind so that you can get that piece through it. And I was telling one of the other meetings, or it was one of the Zoom meetings, I actually ground a tool to a 72 degree with a traditional grind, so that it's working across there and it's got a very short distance in here. And you can push that right around that turn and cut that grain.
Yeah, I have one that I ground to 84 degrees.
84 is really steep. I found 72, 74 got me around anything I wanted to get around. All right. So the only other thing that we were going to talk about tonight was sharpening a scraping tool. And Mike Messina was talking about how he sharpens a scraping tool. And this is a, what do they call that when you got the two bevels on it?
Rake.
Huh?
Rake, yeah.
Negative rake.
Rake or something.
Reverse scraper. All right. You want this? So,
If you'll bear with me, folks, I'm gonna move this tripod.
All right, so we're over here now. And one of the things you'll see is that this is pretty steep. You can see this angle here and this angle here, that it's a pretty short angle as opposed to, say, a skew. Good skew here somewhere. Yeah. This is a skew. And as soon as we find, there it is. You can see how sharp that angle is on that skew, as opposed to this on the scraper. Can you see that? And I just do that on a platform. And I think this is about 25 degrees or so.
Jim, how do you measure that degree on that platform?
I've got protractor, okay? And in this case, we're gonna come in. It's actually more than I thought. So that's 70, so half that'd be 35. So it's about a 35-degree angle. And then I just set up a platform. Okay, so if I'm in a bowl and I'm going to be coming this way with this around this arc, I want the burr on the top. So in order to put the burr on the top, I take it in the direction I have, and now I've got a burr on the top of this. So the burr's up here, and so if I'm working inside a bowl, I can bring it in and come around this way. If I want the burr on the other side, then I'll roll that over, put the burr on the other side. And so I don't know where I would use that. And it's just real quick. Sometimes you have to take this one out of your way. I've got my burr on it and I'm ready to cut. Okay? That's not particularly hard. And I've only just recently started to use one of them. And I find that when I was turning that Norway maple, and that bowl's thick, but when I was turning that Norway maple, I had a real problem in the bottom of it. And so I ground an old skew I had, an old buck skew I picked up somewhere for probably $2. And I just used that for that. One other thing I wanted to show tonight, and you may remember, some of you who were, when we demonstrated wood tool sharpening, there was a big argument about, could you do an Ellsworth grind on a Wolverine setup? And what I did is, you measure this and you get your 7 inches from here to your platform, and you get your 4 inches up. If you don't put a block in here, you're going to be 5 inches down. So that's going to give you a different angle on your Ellsworth than if you put a block in here so you can elevate that. And so I just cut a block in a V, and then ran this off with a plane, and then mounted 3 rare earth magnets in it so it fits down in the Wolverine platform. And then put a little notch in the back, which gives me my 4-inch vertical. And then to set my 7-inch, and I meant to bring it tonight, I just used a piece of dowel that I put in next to it that's the right length, so that I can always get that adjustment right. If you pick up your AAW magazine this month, the guy actually takes out and puts a piece that looks like he takes a piece of hollow PVC and puts around the arm. So you have to pull the arm out, put the PVC on it, run it in. And then once it's in place, it's locked. But I found if I just take a dowel and set it in against this rod and in against the back of here, I can get the right distance real consistently. And so that allows me to set that up. And if I want to do something like use this to grind a parting tool, or I want to use it to grind a spindle gouge, I'll just take this block off, and that gives me a deeper pocket for setting a handle in. So if I don't set a handle in it, I want to grind it. So that seemed to solve that particular problem for me anyhow. And it's a pretty piece of sycamore, so. Any questions? Looks like we don't have any questions.
Okay, okay.
You're in charge.
So if you don't look, you're using this. Are you using this in the notch then?
If I use a Wolverine in my notch when I'm doing my spindle gouge. If I'm sharpening my detail spindle gouge, wherever it got to, here it is, I use the Wolverine. Because it's a little bit more positive, okay? And if you use an Ellsworth doesn't handle anything less than a 1/2 inch or a true 5/8 bolt gouge. And so my Wolverine's what I use for anything smaller. So if I'm doing a spindle gouge, this is ground a little longer, so I use a little longer stick in here to get that, and I use my Wolverine. If I'm doing my 1/4 inch bolt gouge, which is this one, again, I use a Wolverine for that because the way the V's set up, and these cuttings, this grinds exactly the same angle once it's set up and using the block, okay? And so that's the way I do that. And the other thing is that some of my bolt gouges are getting a little long in the tooth or short in the blade. And so I grind flats on the top of them so that I got longer flats in order to work on them. And that's critical to get that pretty parallel with the flutes. Otherwise it turns it and you get one side long and one side short on the gouge. And so you have to work a little bit to get that lined up with the flutes. Okay.
How about it, folks? Any more questions or comments?
My comment is this is one of the best presentations on tools and technique that I've seen. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone else?
I second that.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks a
It's so
lot.
nice to see Mark. Let's give Mark a hand.
Yeah.
It's great seeing you guys. Thanks for letting me tune in, by the way. I appreciate it.
We owe you a lot.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks.
Sure is.
Great.
Okay, let's put our hands together for Jim. You can either turn your mute off or. Thank you, Jim. I knew that we needed somebody really special like Jim in order to get all of you folks to resume after probably Zooming all day long in various other meetings. So we're really glad that Jim could be here, and thankfully so many of you were able to join. We are going to have drawing now. The gift certificates that will be mailed to you are these. And so I'm going to ask over here, guy, pull one out.
Oh, Mike, you pulled your own.
That's Dan Kozar gets one of those.
Yeah, Reg,
Then we'll have one more.
Reg,
He didn't want it.
Reg,
Yes.
give that to someone else. I don't really need it. I'm not going to order anything.
Okay, we'll draw another name then. Ken Vasco.
That's $1, Ken.
And one more. Mike Lemo. You've done a lot of work here. All right, thank you all for joining. We really appreciate it. Ken, I'm assuming I have your snail mail address on the members sheet, and so I'll send that off to you. You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the phone book too, if you can't find it. Or
Okay,
just email me, I'll send it to you.
yeah, great.
See you guys.
Good night.
Take care, guys. Guys and
Good.
gals.
Good job,
Bye,
Jim.
guys.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thanks a
Good job.
lot.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good job, guys.
All right, good night.
Thank you all for joining.
Great meeting. Thank you, Jim, for demonstrating tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah, let me turn it off.
Yeah, go ahead. Stop recording.